Welcome everyone. My name is Jawad Saadi and I'm the Managing Director of Hexatronic Security and Surveillance. And I welcome you today to this webinar. I'm so happy looking at the computer before we started that so many of you have decided to join us today. So without any further ado, I will start introducing the agenda. Just 1 sec before I start, Jan Helgren, if you just confirm that the audio is okay and everything is okay, and I'll go start. All right, let me go through the agenda for today. We're going to start with this introduction, then I'm going to go into a few slides with the main presentation. Then we're going to do a hands-on demo. I sit here today in what we call the InOne studio, where we have the product and we can show you the product and its applications with a live demo. Then we're going to talk about the InOne solution savings, because this is the most interesting part about the InOne. And then we're going to talk about a success story. Usually I have my colleague that have been part of that project presenting, but he's traveling today with the little travel that's happening these days. So I will be doing that part, but hopefully he can also join us in the Q&A. Then we're going to talk a little bit about our reseller program. And last but not least, the most interesting part, the interactive, is the Q&A. Please feel free to put your questions already throughout the presentation, and we promise to stay in the end until we answer all questions. So thank you so much. All right. So what is the InOne solution? The InOne solution is a power and fiber hybrid solution to connect two types of devices. PoE devices. So anybody that is working PoE with a PoE device, whether it's a camera, a sensor, or any type of a PoE device, today you're limited by the standard of 100 meters. Some extenders can take you a few hundred meters, but with the InOne solution, you can push the PoE ports up to kilometers into your network with power and fiber cables. And the whole presentation is about that today. The other type of devices, the non-PoE devices that can take direct fiber connection and have an SFP port. We can provide the fiber directly to the device and provide the DC power to work with that device. So what are the applications? Usually, the most typical application where you want to connect devices and you don't have power, then it's an ideal solution. Instead of connecting two networks, one for the power and one for the fiber, by using the InOne solution, and as the name apply, it's InOne, both the power and the fiber together, then you deploy one network instead of two. But in many cases, customers do have power where they want to connect the device. But if it's, for example, a perimeter security, it's a critical application, and they don't want to connect their security cameras to somebody else's power, so they want to connect it to their own power. So if you don't have power, the solution will be idle, because you connect both the data via the fiber and the power in one network. But if you have power, but it is somebody else's power, maybe it's connected to the light system or some other system, and you want your own power, the InOne is ideal as well. So what industries are using the InOne? We have applications in security and surveillance, and it's going to be a little bit our focus today. Lots of industrial applications with thermal cameras and special sensors. IoT, Internet of Things, connecting base stations, sensors, actuators. Public Wi-Fi, it's also very interesting for service providers that want to connect public Wi-Fi access point. RF over fiber, if you're familiar with that, and distributed antenna systems, DAS. Fixed wireless terminals, also we're getting now some traction with some of these projects. Some of our customers have deployed the InOne for multi-application networks, so they use it for both CCTV and public Wi-Fi, for example, and they use switches. We provide switches that support VLANs. The target customers could be civil, like gated communities or smart cities, industrial applications, tactical applications for military, border control, police, and a lot of also interest from temporary installations like huge construction sites where probably they want CCTV camera but they want to move it, and the InOne gives the flexibility that it is easier moved than moving AC power cables, for example. So let's talk about the system, and I will go in the slides, I will try to go fast so we can spend more time in the demo. So in the beginning of the network, we combine both the power and the fiber. So we convert the AC power to DC power, and then we put both in one cable, and the cable is like this cable, and you can see that this cable has power and fiber, and we use these micro ducts and we blow these cables in the ducts until we reach where the devices are, and then we have the InOne cabinet, and in the one cabinet then we again split the power and the fiber to feed the industrial switch or to feed the devices directly. We have different variations. Sorry, let me go back to the slides. All right, we have different variations of the cable. You can look at the details when we send you the presentations with different diameters of copper. And we have more variations coming down the road. We also have a fire-rated application. Another interesting thing that we do, Hexatronic as a group, we have a wide portfolio of different fiber cables and connect systems and also ducts. And what's interesting in our portfolio that we have so many different kind of ducts depending on your implementation. So if you want a direct burial duct, we have that. If you want an aerial duct, we have that. If you want armored cable underwater, a single duct like this one, this is a direct burial single duct. Or for example, this is a 4-way or a 7-way duct. So the beauty of the solution that we don't have to vary the cable, we vary the duct depending on your implementation. So the duct can be used in all of these ducts. The cable can be used in all of these ducts, but also the cable can be, we had projects where they pulled the cable inside their own duct system because they had already the infrastructure. This is at the access devices. This is the InOne cabinet. And here, as we mentioned previously, that we split the power and the fiber. We feed the industrial switch with, and the industrial switch in it turns powers the devices with PoE. If you have non-PoE devices, then you don't need the industrial switch inside the cabinet. We have also recently partnered with Corinex, and we have we're introducing now a wide variety of switches and media converters with 4-port, 8 ports, and with PoE++ up to 90 watts per port. So there is a lot coming, so stay tuned and follow our news. Another advantage about the InOne, that the InOne can be connected in any network topology. Whether your devices are in a bus topology, in a star, in a fan-out topology, we can follow any topology you have. And this is extremely important for 2 points. One, it's a cost-saving item that we don't imply the topology that you have to follow. So we follow what is the best route and what's the most economical route to do the infrastructure. Secondly, it's extremely important for additions in the future. That example that you have a bus and now you want to have extra devices in the middle. You can just branch out from the bus and connect more devices and install new InOne cabinets. So this is a great flexibility feature. Now the most common question, I haven't looked at the Q&A, but probably it's already there. How far can you connect the devices? So if you have a camera, for example, how far can you connect it? And the answer is It depends on the power budget. And for that, we have made a calculation tool to calculate these distances. But the concept is as this. The European standards allow, the European safety standards allow up to 110 volts DC. So you start with 110 volts DC, and it depends on how many devices you have and the power consumption of each device and the distances. So we have made a calculation tool that takes into consideration the power budget, the network topology, the distances, the device loads, the network losses, and the cable type. And based on all of that, we provide the calculation, and we do that design for you. But to give a sense of the example, if you have like a bullet camera, CCTV camera with like 18 watts load, you can go up to 7 kilometers with that. And that is amazing. There is no other way. Instead of pulling power or putting high maintenance solar cells with batteries to have any other alternative. So it's a great solution. This is an interesting slide. For any of you that have worked in turnkey projects with CCTV, if you look at the traditional graph, you have the majority of the cost of the total project going to the infrastructure, which is the civil work, the excavation for the power, the civil work for the power, the civil work for the fiber, then all the cables, the ducts, and then you have a layer of some, you need some industrial switches, the edge switches, and then mostly the part that you're interested in, the cameras themselves, the CCTV, and the software that sits on top of that. And this was averaged from 4 projects that we have been involved with customers. When you introduce the InOne will actually save so much money on the civil infrastructure. First of all, you have to, in the tradition, you have 2 networks, one for the AC power and one for the fiber. We take one out. That's 50% of the civil work immediately. Then you're also not buying the big AC power cables, and this sample was taken from a project. This is the kind of direct burial cables that they use. So you take that out, and it's no rocket science to see the savings immediately from that. With the InOne, we have integrated industrial switches, so that is integrated in the systems. Because it is all powered with the InOne systems, you don't need PSUs in the cabinets that are close to the cameras. So it's a huge saving. The material is much more condensed, so it is less logistics, less machinery to use. So it's a huge saving. So for you as a system integrator, I know that you're mostly focused on the CCTV part, on the supplying the cameras, but if the system integrator turnkey price is lower, then you're more likely to win the project, and you provide the solution. You provide a solution that is better for the customer as well. So let's summarize. What are the benefits of the InOne solution? And we'll go after that to the demo. Okay, we have big claims. We claim that you can do 50 to 70% saving on the civil infrastructure and the cabling. And we're confident about these claims. We've been in many projects, and the saving can differ from one project to the other due to how expensive is the civil work based on that terrain, let's say, and the other conditions of the site. So this is a huge advantage. The customers usually have limited budget, and if they have enough budget, they can get more for less with implementing the InOne. Second, it's a faster way to deploy the infrastructure. First of all, you do one civil work instead of 2. Second, because we're blowing the InOne cables inside these ducts, and the ducts come in big lengths. They come in 1 and 2 kilometer drums. The cables, you can blow them depending on the terrain. We can provide the distances that you can blow the cables. So it's a much faster deployment because the cables and the ducts and everything they're micro ducts and they're smaller cables. Then the whole logistics and the machinery that you need is much less. Handling is much less, so it helps with the speed of deployment. Security, and as we mentioned, You cannot, in a critical application, you cannot rely on somebody else's power network. You want to supply your own power network. So this provides security. And if you connect the devices in a ring topology, then if you have a cable cut, you have full redundancy, because you can supply not only the fiber, but the fiber and power from the other side of the network. This kind of redundancy can never be achieved with AC power cables. Next one is redundancy. Redundancy is achieved in two ways. First, with creating the rings, but also that you can put the UPS in the beginning of the network. And then if the beginning of the network is starting from your data center, then you can put one UPS for all the devices in the beginning of the network. It's an indoor UPS, where traditionally people are buying expensive external UPSs and put it in the cabinets close to the cameras to provide the power redundancy. And that's a great advantage as well. Flexibility. Because we mentioned earlier that we follow all network topologies, then you can add devices anytime in the future to your network, whether you're in the middle of the bus, or you're fanning out, or you're extending a star, or you add other InOne systems. It provides you with extreme flexibility. So let's see how we're doing with time. Yes, good. Let's go to the demo. And let me switch to the main camera. So let's start logically by the side of the beginning of the network. Here I have an example of a street cabinet. This is where the network starts. It could be in a street cabinet, but it can be also inside the data center. It is the same devices. So let me try to zoom you in a bit so you see what's happening here. Here we have AC to DC rectifier. So we convert the AC power, typically 220 volts, to DC, and as mentioned, 110 volts DC. Then here we're getting the fiber from our core network, and we bring in both the fiber and the DC power into this hybrid ODF here. And then we combine both the power and the fiber to the InOne cable. All right, and then we go out with the ducts, and I will take you to the other side of the room until we reach the InOne cabinets. And here we have an example of two sizes of our InOne cabinet. This is the larger one, we call it the E10, and the smaller one, we call it the E3. This was just recently introduced. The larger one, we have also developed a sun shield for extremely hot climate. And this sun shield has been installed in some sites and have produced very good results. So let's get into, sorry for the noise. Let's get inside the InOne cabinet. First of all, the InOne cabinet is made of solid and aluminum, and the cabinet is rated to be external. It's IP65, and we use the cabinet itself for all the heat dissipation of the cabinet. So all the components that are inside are industrial grade, and they are solid state, so they don't have any fans or moving part. And we use the cabinet itself as a heat sink to dissipate the power. So let's look of what we have here, and let me get you a little bit closer and even closer. All right. So let's look at this power board. Here I have the incoming power, and here I have two cables for the outgoing cables. So they're fanning out into two networks, so it's feeding the other devices in the network. And the fiber is taken out into the fiber cassette. We take two fibers and we terminate on this switch, and then we have extra fibers for the other networks if we need them. Then the power is also, we take the power in for this cabinet. There is a protection circuit here, and behind this board there is a DC to DC voltage regulator that gives us 48 volts DC. So if this is the first cabinet in the network, probably we have here an input voltage of 90 volts DC. After the voltage regulator, it is 48 volts DC. All right. And that voltage is fed to the industrial switch. The incoming voltage, which in the example, like it's around 90 volts, it will feed the outgoing cables. And then the industrial switch, usually you have a fiber in and a fiber out to create the ring of the network. Here I only have the fiber in, but typically we connect also the fiber out for the next cabinet in the network. Then here, this is a 4-port model. Here you connect your Cat6 cables and you connect them to your devices. So whatever the devices are, the PoE devices, in this example I have one of my studio cameras here connected to the switch, but you can have any kind of PoE device. Next here we have the smaller cabinet. It's a smaller form factor. All right. All components are the same. You have the same. This is a newer connection, an easy connection, but all the power board behind that bracket, the DC to DC voltage regulator, everything is the same. The cassette is the same, but this is a smaller form factor, and usually we use this where you only need media converters. And in our new switch and media converters collection, we have a media converter with 90 watts with PoE++, which is a great solution in many applications. So this is a quick demo. Before I go to the next part of the webinar today, on our website, which is hexatronic.com/InOne, you get a calendar function where you can actually book an appointment to bring in your customers and we demonstrate a demo for you. So what we did today, the slideshow and showing the online demo, you can use it for your own staff, for your colleagues, or if you want to present the InOne solution to your customers, then you can invite them to this environment and we will do this kind of show, and you don't need to coordinate so much. The calendar function is on our website. Just go in and book a time and you'll have one of us presenting to you. And now the next one in the agenda is to take a little bit more look at the savings. And here I have a cross section that shows the typical excavation. So usually in a typical network, you have one civil work for the power cables, and you see the big power cables here, and another civil work and excavation for the fiber. And with the InOne solution, you can actually replace these two with this one. So this is the example. This is the InOne cables. If you already have the fiber network, you can remove the traditional InOne cables, or if you have an empty duct, and just pull or blow the InOne cables. So let's go to the customer case. And let me overlay myself so you continue to see me. So this customer is called Isla. It's a gated community smart city, and they have the system now for almost 2 years. And Isla is resort hotels. They plan to have 5 hotels. They have 2 hotels. I think the 3rd one is opening soon. They have a marina, 2 golf courses, and a residential city with lots of apartments with different sizes and villas. The location of the smart city is extremely sensitive. It's on the international borders between Jordan and Israel. The northern border also have the international airport, so it's quite sensitive. So security was quite an important project for the customer. And in the background you see the AutoCAD of the site, and the whole area of Isla is 4.4 million square meters. and within about 8-kilometer perimeter wall. This is the single line diagram, how the cameras were connected. In phase 1, that was commissioned in November 2019, we have 128 cameras. 14 of them are PTZ cameras. It's totally 9 InOne systems, 48 InOne cabinets, all of them with 4-port PoE++. There is a total of a little bit less than 10 kilometers of cable. Then in phase 2, which is almost a year later, they started connecting the cameras inside the project. So they added, I think, around 40 cameras with 2 InOne systems. They added also cameras to the previous existing systems. Also 12 InOne cabinets, but also another 5 kilometers of cable. And that has been operational since October last year. And there is a phase year that is planned for the end of this year. So it's quite a sizable and interesting project, excellent as a reference. These are some pictures from the sites. Some of the cabinets, the InOne cabinets, were installed on the poles for the security cameras. Others were installed on the wall. And if you see the example with the wall installation, they asked our system integrator to paint the cover. And that's additional advantage for the cover, that if you want to paint it to camouflage it to a certain extent or to blend in to the background. And in that example, you also see a PTZ camera. This customer used access cameras throughout, so our partner have done this in collaboration with the access partner there. All right. So what is from a customer perspective, okay, what did the customer want? The customer wanted to cover the perimeter wall in the first stage. They had some power in some locations, but they did not want to use that because it's used for the lights. They wanted independent power and they wanted redundancy, and the critical factors, like every other customer in the world, is cost, speed of deployment, and something that was very important, the cameras were installed after the project was finished. It was not planned. So the whole infrastructure was built, so they wanted minimal disruption to the roads, pavement, and landscaping. And with removing one of the 2 networks and using where we used micro trenching, then it was really minimum disruption to the infrastructure. And look at the saving that they have achieved. 53% saving on the power and fiber networks. So what did differ? Of course, we added the InOne solution. We added 9 systems with 48 cabinets. Then there was some addition to the fiber network. We connected to their existing ring. But what we have taken out was huge. We have taken out all the civil work for the AC cables, excavation, backfilling, restatement. We didn't need all the AC power cables, no need for external circuit breakers, no need for power circuits, no need for PSUs for the industrial switches, and they eliminated 48 external expensive UPSs. Also because we have the industrial switches integrated in our solution, so they did not need this big industrial switches with PSU in the outdoor cabinet. And amazingly, the whole project was completed in 6 weeks, and we achieved the speed, we achieved the minimal disruption to their infrastructure. So let me review my agenda. I think the time is perfect. We planned half an hour for this. We're going to share the slides with you after the webinar, and the recording, it will get rendered like half an hour after the webinar, and it will be shared with you. Before I go into the Q&A, I have one last part for the audience. I can see, I'm looking at the audience, I can see a very big variety of audience. I looked at the registration list, so we have a mix of end users and system integrators. I want to show you how you can work with us. For you that are system integrators, you can become a reseller, and that is very easy. You can scan the code now and we will send you the link and you can complete the application. So all you need is to register, get some salespeople trained and order a reference system, and then you become a partner. But what do you get? You get project design from our pre-sales resources. You get lead sharing when we get leads from our network and our marketing activities. We'll share leads with you. We give you protection on the leads that you generate and the projects that you're working on. We give you prioritized support, and very importantly, you get discounted partner pricing, so you don't have to negotiate pricing every time. You get the best prices the first time, every time. We can do shared marketing activity, and you get access to this online showroom to bring in your customers. To go a little bit on the project design services, you give us the drawing of the customer, and this is just 2 examples of drawings that we received. You give us the drawing from the customer site, and then this is what you get back from us. You get a full single line diagram design. You get all the power calculations for every InOne system, the loads, the routes, the distances, and the power. And here you can see how much redundant power you have for future expansions. You get all the power distribution of the cables, each node, how much is it consuming and how much more power it's putting to the next node. You get, of course, a bill of material that is priced with your partner price list. And you get a little bit of a design write-up. In the design write-up, what we cover, what are your redundancy options if the redundancy was not specified in your specification? What is your expansion capacity? And this could be an input from your side. Say, don't use all the power. This is 70% of the total capacity, so keep 30% redundancy. So that can be also an input criteria from your side. What are the achieved savings? If we have done any design assumptions, we'll clear out all the design assumptions, so you verify it with the end user. Any suggested optimization, sometimes the customers say don't change the routes, but sometimes we see overwhelming need to do some changes that will produce lots of value and savings to the customer, so we suggest optimization. And after the end user and the consultants approve everything, we will issue the final AutoCAD's drawing for the implementation. All right, so let's move to the Q&A. And I'm single-handed today, so you have to excuse me a little bit. I will look at the questions, and the easiest thing that I take them in order as they came in, not in any other priority. And please feel free to put more questions. If you want to verbally ask a question, you can kindly raise your hand and I'll give you the microphone. Wow, it's amazing. More people have come in during the presentation. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time and being with us. Okay. So what, yeah, this is done. How many fiber connections we can do from the InOne cabinet? Okay, it's multiple dimensions to this answer. We have the 2 cables that we have right now. One of the cables have 12 fibers and the other cable have 24 fibers. If you connect your switches in a bus, actually you're only utilizing 2 fibers. So you go into the industrial switch to the SFP with 2 fibers and you go out with other 2 fibers. So actually, if you have a bus, it's very little fiber utilization, but our cable has 12 fibers and 24 fibers. If it doesn't, anybody please, if what I give doesn't answer your question, please post your question again. Can we use switches we have already? Absolutely yes. In the let me go in here. In this cabinet, here we have a ComNet switch. We're going to have a big variety of Coronex switches very soon. But you see, you can fit your own switch. There are only two limitations: that it physically fits inside the cabinet, and we calculate the heat dissipation of the switch that you do, so we make sure that we can dissipate all that heat. All the switches that we provide, we have already done that calculation, and we have good variety of switches. But if you want to use their own, yes, absolutely, you can use your own. So that is asked. Then how many fiber connect? Yeah, we have answered that. Is your street cabinet an outdoor rated, or it should be indoor? No, this is an outdoor rated cabinets. It's IP65 and it is outdoor rated. And we have installation in the hottest climates and in the coldest climates. So we've been handling that quite well. And the cabinet itself actually is an integral part of the solution. So it's not any cabinet. The cabinet has been designed the way the components, the voltage regulator is attached to the cabinet to dissipate all the heat out. So the whole thing is an integrated solution with lots of design and lots of engineering that have happened. And the cabinets are also compact, very good quality, and good looking. We are using cameras with direct SFP interface. How can I connect them? Yes, absolutely. In the cabinet, and let me switch to this again. Here you have the fiber out from the InOne cabinet. So this is now connected to an SFP in the switch. So you don't use the switch. You just take the fiber and connect it to the SFP in your camera. In that case, I suggest that you use the smaller sister and you don't put this media converter and take the fiber out to your camera that is equipped with an SFP. Can the devices take high temperature? Yes, we have been, let me move back the camera to me. Yeah, we have installed it in hot climates. One of our installations, Isla, for example, is on the Red Sea. This past summer, they had their hottest days in long years, 49 degrees. We have measured an ambient temperature inside the cabinet of 84 degrees, and we had absolutely no problem with the devices in the cabinet. Everything is industrial rated and it should withstand that kind of temperature. For the guys that are in Europe, I know lots of the audience is in Europe. It's also rated for colder climates, and now we're bidding on a project in the high mountains of Norway, so we can handle both extremes. And in the data sheets you can see the actual temperatures that we support. Another question here, can the power be used to other things than the camera? Yes, power is power. You have regulated voltage out in the cabinet, and you can connect to it any load. You just need to supply us during the design if you want to have other things. Some people add some kind of sensors to the cabinet plus the devices. So the load is a load. As far as we're concerned, it just needs to be calculated. Thank you for the question. All right, I have a you mentioned your cable can be pulled or blown. This can be used our own ducts, or yes, you can use your own ducts. Actually, in the Isla project, the majority of the duct was their own ducts, and it was pulled in their traditional ducts. In some cases, there were these micro ducts added, but the majority of it was traditional ducts, and the cable were pulled. So what is special about the Hexatronic ducts? All right, what is special, actually, Hexatronic has a long legacy in blowing cables inside ducts. And what's so special, traditionally, people have, I show you this example. This is what people did to cables. This is an example of a power cable, but this is what people did to cables. To be able to put the cable underground, they have protected the cable itself. So they have put armoring and layers of jackets and everything. What we have done, we have moved the protection from the cable to the duct. So when the cable, let me have a sample of a cable from here. When the cable is inside the duct, this is equivalent to an armored duct. And then we are varying the ducts instead of varying the cables. So you have the flexibility of varying the cables instead of the ducts. And then in the example, this is an example of an armored duct. This can be underwater as well. This is an example of an aerial duct, and this can be aerial suspended. We have this double sheeted ducts with 4-way. We have it here with 7-way. So we have flexibility about the ducts. So the ducts, the Hexatronic ducts give you an advantage if you want to use them, but also the cable can be used in traditional ducts. I have seen examples, for example, where customers had, for example, one empty duct, the bigger ducts, the 6 inches duct, and then it's one duct, and usually it's not so practical to put more than one cable in a duct unless you are pulling them together. So what they use, they put inside the old duct one of these guys, the 7-way subducts, and they converted the one duct into 7. And then they blow normal fiber cables or InOne cables inside that. So I think it's a lot of advantages. If you have something specific, please get in touch with us and we can provide you with more details. In a bus topology, what will happen if one of the cabinets becomes faulty? That's a very good question. As we said, if the cabinet, if the switch, for example, becomes faulty, then naturally the devices that is connected to that switch will not be working. But the cabinets after that will continue to be connected for 2 reasons. First of all, the fiber is in a, you can close the ring and you can feed the fiber from the other side if it's affecting the fiber. For example, if it's a faulty SFP, then you feed the fiber from the other side. And the power out to that switch inside the cabinet actually does not affect the bus. The bus is connected before the cabinet. Let me move back to the cabinet. This is an interesting question, actually. And even the more zoomed in. This is the InOne cable. And this is incoming, and these are 2 outgoing. All you have here is a physical connection. In the fiber as well, there is these 2 fibers going to the cabinets. The rest of the fibers are looped and continuing with our cables. So there is nothing here in this cabinet that could go faulty that will affect the outgoing cables. These connections might as well outside the cabinet, but it's much more practical and neater to have it inside the cabinet. Another interesting question, do you believe that the current 4G and 5G are an alternative to your solution? Interesting question. 4G and 5G are amazing technologies with lots of bandwidth and with big availability, but it solves one of 2 things. It solves the data connectivity, it doesn't solve the power. I haven't been aware of wireless power yet. So if you solve the data connectivity with 4G, and that's possible, lots of customers do that, but then you still have to connect the power. So actually it solves one of the 2 problems, you solve the other one. So if you're going to connect the power, you might as well have the fiber. The fiber is the actual fiber is the cheapest component of the solution. If you have power and it is redundant, then you can use 4G depending and 5G in the future depending on your application. Thank you for the question, interesting. Next, is it possible to use our own switches? Yes, we have answered that. Yes, you can. Yes, we have answered that one. Does it need special tools to implement your product? The product is, you need a fiber technician to implement this solution. Anybody that have worked with fiber cables, that can open fiber cable and splice fiber cables, can open this. So the beauty about this solution, the fiber is fiber and the DC is DC. So anybody that have connected DC power before, depending on the country, some countries they have certifications. The majority of the countries with DC voltage less than 110 volts, you don't need a licensed electrician to do that, but then you have to check with your local requirements. And the fiber, then it's a fiber technician. We have installation guides and we're building also a library of video tutorials. So from anything that is specific to the InOne, no, we have some tools. They're not special. They're normal jacket opening tools and duct cutting tools and things like that, that usually fiber installation companies do have that. If you want to use the blowing technique, then you have to have the equipment for blowing. Depending on the country you're living in, like here in Northern Europe, there is abundant of installation company that blow fiber. That's almost the standard of fiber deployment these days. Is the InOne system, does it need installed in serial to power? It can be. Yeah. Again, yes, we support all network topologies. So the question is, does it have to be serial, or it can be in a fan out? Yes, it can be in a fan out, in a star topology, or in a serial, or in a combination. So it's very flexible from that sense. One more question. If you have a project and we need someone to design it based on the InOne solution, can you help us with that in regards to fiber design and power calculations? Absolutely, yes, we do that all the time. And for if you become a registered reseller and an InOne partner, then we don't charge you for that as a professional service. So we do the design. Our pre-sales engineers, they have lots of experience and they will help a lot with the optimization. I believe system integrators, after their first project, they can do the job also on their own. But as long as you need support, we'll be able to provide you with that. So if you're interested, don't forget to fill in the application and so you become a partner and you get all these services. What is the maximum distance you reach with the InOne? Again, it's a power budget calculation, and if you want more details, please contact us and we can give you all the details. It's a power budget calculation. So you actually run with the cables and depending on the loads, and as long as you have enough power, you can connect them further. The example that I used, a single 18-watt cameras can be around 7 kilometers away. If the cameras has more load, then it is less distance. So it goes like that. Can you show us more details about the ODF? Is it a special one or it is a normal ODF? All right, 1 sec, let me set up my overhead camera. No, it is not, it's a specific ODF. Yeah, it's switched. I can show you here. This is the hybrid ODF. This is 6 fiber connections for the fibers to come in, and this is where you loop the fiber. Then from this side, where this thick cable is coming, this is the DC voltage with some protection circuit. and then you splice the fiber cable, the incoming fiber cable with the InOne cable. On this side, where is my left hand, you see the InOne cable connected here, and then the power is connected to the power input and the fiber is connected to the fiber. So this is a Hexatronic device. A traditional ODF is only for fiber connections, and this hybrid ODF is for both fiber and power. Lots of interaction today, which is very good. Does the cable include an earthing cable? The cable does not include earthing cable. It is DC power, and there is no requirement to have an earthing cable. I'm not specialist on the topic, but my colleagues in product management, they are, so we can answer specifically. The cabinet itself, and if I switch to that, here you can connect the earth to the cabinet itself, but the cable, since it is DC power, you do not need earthing, or so I'm told. If you want something more technical, please send us your email and we can respond to you with something more. Can you run cables underwater like rivers? Absolutely yes. It is this duct. It is made for rivers and lakes. It is specified for 50-meter depths. And I know that we're going to test it for more depths, because we have a customer that have required it to use it in fish farms, and they have more depth than that. But send us the specifics of the project and we can answer you. But yes, if you blow the cable inside the underwater duct, then it can be installed under rivers. Absolutely. Thank you. Does it need special tool to implement the product? We have answered that. What is the type of fiber? The overwhelming majority of the requests that we get is a single mode fiber. So we have a single mode fiber. But if you have a project that requires multi-mode, and it's like it needs to be a little bit of a volume, the good thing that we're the cable manufacturer, so we can, based on a requirement, if we need to, we can put a multi-mode fiber. But today we have never, I'm not aware at least, of that we have received any requirements for that. Can you please explain more about the redundancy of the product? Yes, the redundancy comes in two ways. That if you connect if you have a bus topology, for example, and you connect it to a ring, if there is a cable cut, you feed the power and the fiber from the other side. This is one kind of redundancy. It's a redundancy against cable cuts. Then the redundancy against power failure, this is the interesting part. If I move again to this one, you can put the UPS here at this point, and then everything that is connected to this cabinet, whether you have 2 or 10 in one cabinets, everything will be connected. And if this is installed inside your data center, then you need an indoor UPS, where traditional solutions, they actually have much bigger cabinet and they put the UPS out in the street cabinet, and that's a much more expensive UPS because it has to be rated for the external environment. You will need a cabinet with fans that fail and with active ventilation. So this is the redundancy with the UPSs. Can we do the power calculation ourselves? Will you guarantee or confirm the output? Yeah, I mean, for the ones that become partners and receive training, they can get the calculation tool. The calculations we do, yes, we guarantee, provided that the system gets implemented according to the design, meaning the loads that were the input of the design and the distances of the design. How you connect fiber and power to your cable, as we just mentioned in the hybrid ODF. We're going to send you the recording, so I don't want to repeat the answer of repeated questions. You can look at the recorded video. Is your street cabinet an outdoor rated? Yes, it is. It's a street cabinet and it is outdoor rated. We have answered that one. Could you show us the slide with the QR code to become reseller? I will show it in the end after we finish all the questions, so stay tuned. But we can also send you the link for the form as well after the webinar. When is the next webinar and in which time zones? We plan to run these webinars regularly, but also you have the option to book a time to have a dedicated one-on-one. So use the calendar on our website, hexatronic.com/InOne, and you find that in all our emails, and you can book one-to-one. For the European time zone, as this one, we hope to run it once a month. We have a webinar for, 2 webinars actually, for New Zealand and Australia in 2 weeks. If you're interested in that, get in touch with us and we will give you the links. But if you also subscribe to our newsletter and you get registered with us, as you have registered now, give us a note and we'll update you every time there is a new webinar. It seems to be the last question, and let's say last but not least, unless new questions come in. Do you have any kind of design estimate layout of the system, understand the saving, prepare the bill of material? Yes, in our design service we do that. We provide the bill of material and we show all the savings. So we do that. Send us the requirements and we will do that, and we can show you examples of what we do. This seems to be the last question. Before we end, please remember the benefits of the InOne. Remember that you can book this environment in a one-to-one. Watch our future announcements of webinars. Send us requirements of the project, and the proof is in the pudding. Send us an example project with the requirements. Let us design it for you and see the benefits yourself. See the savings yourself. And before I say goodbye to you, and I promise to show that slide in the end, I thank everybody. So many of you have come in today, and the majority of the people have stayed to the end. Thank you so much for giving us the time. We know that your time is valuable, and thank you for deciding to give us the time and to be with us today. I say goodbye to you, and I move to the slide that has the QR code. Here is the link. Thank you so much, and hope to hear from you soon.